What's up, YouTube? I haven't slept in 48 hours and I desperately need a haircut. But who has time for that when I'm out here doing the Lord's work, watching vintage Japanese media made for children? And in today's episode of that, we will be looking at the second Super Sentai series ever made, and the shortest, with only 35 episodes and a movie. Hell, it was so short it didn't even see the new year, beginning in April 9th, 1977 and ending in December 24th, 1977. To remind you of what happened last time, Himitsu Sentai Goranger was a smash hit in Japan, more so than anyone expected. So it got extended to a whopping 84 episodes, spanning 2 years, but that also led to a problem. Now when starting a new series, you have to tell your audience, forget those characters, what little they had in that show, that they got to know over 2 years, and learn to love these new guys. Which of course is always a problem when making a show that switches its cast every season. But on the other end of that spectrum, it gives the creators more freedom. They're not bogged down by the past show's rules or continuity. They can explore things the last show may have prevented them from doing. And that's what Toei and Ishinomori set out to do when developing the sequel to Go Rangers. Like I said, last time, Go Rangers was marketed toward a young child demographic, being very colorful and silly, and so they decided to go darker, more mature with its sequel. And superheroes at the time were still bright, colorful, and goofy, and they couldn't go off that, so they took influence from a more timeless type of fighting crime, like police dramas and spy thrillers. And maybe to hammer home again that this is a spin-off of Kamen Rider, the Rangers in the series would be cybernetically enhanced to combat crime. The show went through a couple names and iterations, but was eventually settled on theming the heroes around the cards in a standard playing card deck: Jack, Ace, King, and Queen. Made that into an acronym and slapped Dengekitai on there, which roughly translates to something like Lightning Attack Squad. I assume the lightning/electric kanji in the name is because they're cyborgs. And so on April 9th, 1977, Jack Dengekitai premiered on Japanese airwaves, and it bombed. Well, not really, it just didn't do as well as Go Ranger, which to a company not doing as well as another thing that you made means it failed. Because of this, the show several times would go through retooling as it aired, trying to make it more kid-friendly and hip. But no matter how drastic the changes, it would not find the ratings or audience Toei was looking for, and it would be canceled midway through its run. And now it's more seen as this awkward show in the Sentai canon in terms of its tone and plot, as it's kind of all over the place. And I say that's bullshit and unfair. Maybe it's because I am an adult, but I actually liked Jack Dengekitai. And it was actually because of its more mature tone and its focus on its characters. And I do have mixed feelings on it when it does try to be more like a Sentai, because that just made it more generic in the grand scheme of it all. Not to mention, Jack is actually way more important to the history of Sentai than you think, because this show actually introduces several things that would become a standard in Sentai years later. Like, it's the first Ranger team without 5 members, the only one with 4, I think. The first where the Rangers have powers outside their suits, which I have opinions about. The first series with some type of morphing with devices, sort of. The first time a new Ranger is added to the team midway through the series, and the first White Ranger, both things that will become iconic later on in Sentai and Power Rangers. And finally, the first series to have an official Ranger team-up. So let's dig into Jack Dengekitai and see how it started all these trends in spandex-wearing cyborgs with attitude. So of course we start with the theme song of Jack Dengekitai, called Jack Dengekitai. Again, I can just put the words on screen. They're fine, talks about each ranger and how they fight despite their cold, hard, mechanical, lifeless bodies, because they're our heroes. I do like the beat of it. Starts off kind of like a tribal chant, sort of, and then leads into a groovy 70s beat. The visuals are fine too, the Rangers driving cars like assholes and just running at stuff we don't really see. Overall, it's okay. Well, I think I like the song more. Overall, Go Rangers was better. We begin proper with the first episode, 4 cards. The Trump is Jack, where things apparently aren't as peaceful as we thought when Go Rangers ended all crime, because it's running rampant. Literally, because the big bad organization of this show is named Crime, which stands for nothing. It's not an acronym. They are a crime. They're doing a bang-up job at it, blowing up nuclear subs, using monsters. Yep, real monsters, depending on who you ask. These monsters' gimmick is they have the word devil in front of noun, like devil killer. Devil killer! And this crime is getting so bad, Daisuke Kojita, played by Hiroshi Tanaka, employs the organization he works for to begin the Jack program to combat crime. Why didn't I say Daisuke's organization? Well, this one has an acronym, And the full name is International Science Special Investigation Squad, or ISIS. And yeah, that's not how it's spelled, but how else would you say that? Is? Now, to be fair, they never say ISIS in the show. They just say its name in Japanese with no worries. I'm probably just going to call them ISIS because it's funnier today. So ISIS, needing to stop these terrorists, approves of the J.A.K.Q program, and Daisuke goes around recruiting these would-be toasters. First, he recruits Goro Sakurai, played by Yoshitaka Tamba, who, fun fact, was actually the original person Toei approached to play Akaranger in Go Rangers. But Tamba refused because he didn't have a motorcycle license, and he didn't want to look like a nerd posing in a stupid outfit, which, fair. Instead, he's riding a horse in a stupid outfit, as Goro, because he's an equestrian. Will the horse also be a crime-fighting cyborg? Because I'm not against that. I guess we'll never find out, because Goro declines, because he's training for the Olympics. So why do they want to recruit an equestrian to be a ranger? Good question. Daisuke then goes to recruit Ryu Higashi, played by Hazen Ito, who is being arrested. Man, he works fast. Actually, he was a boxer in Las Vegas, and when he refused to fix fights, he was framed for murder and was brought back to Japan for prosecution. But Daisuke offers him a deal, become a cyborg slave for the government and work it off fighting evil, and Ryu says, sure, okay. The next one is Karen Mizuki, played by Michi Margaret Love, a policewoman who is celebrating her father's 25th anniversary as a detective, and they just so happen to stop Crime's plans before all this, and those are death flags if I ever saw them, and Crime organizes a car crash on their way home. Her father dies, and Karen is left alive in the wreckage, and Goro, who was walking by, I guess, manages to pull her from the burning car wreck, saving her life. Now hospitalized, Daisuke approaches her with a chance to get revenge on Crime for killing her dad by becoming a microwave. Then Goro decides to join because, I don't know, maybe after seeing what Crime did to Karen, the Olympics aren't that important anymore. Fourth and final member of J.A.K.Q is actually the deadliest of them all. Because he's dead. Bunta Daichi, played by Yusuke Kazuto, an oceanographer who died in some freak accident where the sub he was in lost oxygen. And they say he was a willing recruit before he died, so they decided to use his body and turn it into a cyborg. Yeah, I'm sure Daisuke could back that up if only he were here. So all four of them become cyborgs in disguise now. They then get code names. Daisuke, the commander, will be known as Joker. Goro is now Spade Ace. Ryu is Diamond Jack. Karen is Heart Queen. And Bunta is Clover King. Man, Bunta is also taking this whole dying in a submarine and then waking up back in Japan as a cyborg very well. So well, he doesn't even acknowledge it. Now, the team's first mission is to recover some gold Crime stole, and using their cybernetics and their super special awesome plane thingy, the Sky Ace, they recover it and fight Devil Killer, which means it's time. Yeah, we get actual morphing sequences now. I mean, it's just some editing of them over their suits, but it's something. Fuck. Also, I guess you can say these are the first morphers, these tubes the Rangers use to change. I won't call them that, but you can. Finally, let's talk about the suits. I'm not a fan, honestly. The most interesting part is the helmets representing the suit of the card they are. Everything else is pretty basic. The suit is their main color, and it feels like they didn't know what design to put on it, so they just added a belt and a bandolier with the first Latin letter of their suit. There is some design on top of that on their shoulder, but you can barely see it. Then for some reason, they all wear these short yellow capes that I think clash with everything. It really feels like these suits were thrown together last minute by some guy who needed a cosplay for an anime convention. Well, anyway, after transforming, the usual flips and dips, big finishing move, which I think even for the second Sentai series, this finishing move is pretty stupid. It's called the J.A.K.Q. I don't know what a Kovac is, but according to this show, it involves the Rangers putting their heads on the monster, spinning, flipping it up into a juggle state, then shooting, I don't know, good vibe energy at it, and it blows up. I'd actually be fine if it weren't for that first part. So yeah, Jack beat the monster, and the leader of Crime, Ironclaw, played by Masashi Ishibashi, is not too happy with his crime boss of Tokyo. What's a crime boss? I'm not going to explain it in detail. I also didn't mention Ironclaw up until now, because despite being the big bad of the show, he didn't make that much of an impact in the first episode. I also think he looks stupid. I don't know what that outfit is, but I guess I should be happy there's no Klansman hoods this time. Now, he will become more of a threat as the show goes on, just not right now. That's the first episode of Jakqers, and it was okay. I do think each ranger having a different reason to join and fight besides revenge is neat, and while some like Ace and King aren't so developed, Queen and Jack at least have something interesting going on. I do like crime as an idea as more of a surface level villainy. They just want to rob banks and shit instead of take over the world. I mean, it eventually becomes that because it's a Super Sentai show for kids, but the idea's there. But I can't really say much until we see more of the show, and I'm going to already break one of my rules here. Normally, this would be the part where I'd go into a Cliff Notes version of the story just to give you an idea of what happens. But it is technically the shortest Sentai series, so there isn't much in a story to talk about. And I think the individual episodes are why this show is good. So fuck it. I know I said no episode by episode stuff, but there's always an exception to my stupid arbitrary rules. So yeah, I'm going to take you through mostly every episode, because while there are some good ones here, there are a couple skippable ones. Episode 2, 210 Jacks Destroy the Secret Factory, where Ryu's trainer for his boxing gets killed in a crime plot. Oh my god, a black guy! Sorry, I wasn't expecting to be jump scared by a nigger in a 1970s tokusatsu show for children. Did Japanese kids even know black people existed back then? Anyway, the episode is okay. It does immediately show that interpersonal serious story thing, and does give Ryu something with his backstory with his trainer, but it doesn't add much more to his character than we know, and it's never really brought up again. Also, we do see the crime drama aspect in this episode, and you might get an idea of why the production thought kids weren't as into this show because of its more crime aspects, because the second mission, technically, the Rangers investigate charred corpses of people that were burned alive. That's a show I want my kids watching. I mean, of course, I think that's cool, but yeah, I can see going from Go Rangers to people dying from burning alive was a little jarring. In episode 3, 5 Flushes, Roar Panther, was when I started really getting into this show, as Karen's friend Natsuko, who's a super special awesome martial artist, has quit because she's so good her brother Hayato felt inadequate, so she's stopping so he feels less like a bitch. Then in the crime plot of the episode, Karen finds evidence that Hayato was part of it. After another plot, Jack gets Hayato, who's injured, and says he took performance-enhancing drugs from a crime boss to win a tournament, so he stopped feeling like a bitch. And this gave Crime leverage against him, and he was forced to join. Before the siblings can make up, Crime put a bomb inside of him, and he blows up, like a Looney Tunes cartoon. They soon find the island where Crime is training all the future crimelings, I guess, and Karen tells Natsuko, so she goes alone to get revenge and save the other guys so they don't end up like her brother. Eventually, Jack joins her, they save everyone, and fly off, smiling, having saved the day. Great job, team. Her brother's still dead. And yeah, it's not my favorite episode, but it was pretty entertaining. It had personal stakes with Karen's friends, stupidly melodramatic shit like the bomb inside of the brother, and this scene, which I dub emotional nunchucks. This is the episode I would point to show why I think Jakqers is a good show. It's got it all, the kind of dark tone mixed with the silly Sentai shit, some good acting from the cast, actual stakes, and a decent plot. And even good characters, like I was not expecting the woman in this to be the alive one, because again, it's 1977. And of course, emotional nunchucks. I don't know if kids like this or whatever. Banger episode to me, I loved it. Oh, also, I should mention that the brother in this episode is played by Kenji Oba, a name that means nothing to you right now, but trust me, as Sentai goes on, he's going to be a pretty big deal. In episode 4, One Joker, the perfect crimes assassin. Okay, I called this show not having Klansman hoodies too fast. At least it took 4 episodes this time instead of the first one. Progress is slow, but it's happening. Anyway, we learned something about Bunta here when he befriends a little girl going on a plane trip. It turns out Crime was the one that started ideas of TSA earlier than 2001, when they use a laser to blow up that plane, and Bunta realizes the girl died on that plane and takes it personally. As Joker informs the other Rangers, Bunta had a little sister who died in a plane crash years ago. And that's pretty much it, other than that tidbit, which never comes back. It's a standard episode. But again, shows the show's darker tone as the plot does revolve around Crime murdering passengers on a plane, including children. In episode 5, 3 Snaps, The Ballad of Betrayal, I did start to have a critique for this show, despite this episode also being pretty good. In it, we see that Goro teaches tennis? What happened to the horse shit? Well, when training a girl named Junko, she almost gets taken out by a sniper, so he takes her to get help. But later, Joker tells him that a spy broke in and took pictures of Goro's cybernetics, and it's pretty much confirmed that it's Junko. Turns out it's because Crime is pulling a fast one, as they kidnap Junko's dad, Dr. Koyama, and tell him to give them Goro's weak point or they'll kill his daughter. If you're wondering, Goro's weak point is his brain. Yeah, Crime never thought to shoot their enemies in their head. But they're smart enough to also use Junko because she took pictures of Goro's cyber shits because they said if she did, they'd release her dad. Crime does succeed in attacking Goro in his super secret weak point, but he survives and still plans on protecting Junko despite everything that's happened, surprising her. But Crime gets to her first and convinces her to come out and meet her dad. But they trick her, of course, and she ends up dying. But the Jakqers do manage to save the doctor and beat the monsters, the end. So I do think that was a good story with a lot going on, which is great. But this is when I realized the worst part about the Super Sentai series. There's barely any Sentai in it. Yeah, the human drama is great, but the actual transforming and fighting monster stuff feels like an afterthought. Like they're only doing it because it's the style of the time and the show. For example, the monsters barely matter in these stories. That's why I haven't been mentioning them. It'll show up maybe once in the story and then at the end to get blown up and to be fought. It just doesn't have that proper balance I want with both the human drama and focus on characters as well as stupid costume fights. It's more focused on the former, and sure, again, as an adult capable of thought, I could like that and appreciate it. But the goblin in my brain is screaming, I want more flips and monster fights, damn it. In Nine Pokers, The Beauty's Trap. If you're wondering why these titles have numbers in them, I don't know. I also don't know about this episode. I didn't even take any notes about it, so I probably thought it was mid. Instead, I'll talk about another thing I don't like in Sentai and Power Rangers, which this show introduces, which I call normie powers. These are essentially abilities the Rangers get, unmorphed. Like in Jack, it's because of the cybernetic enhancements, they can perform feats normal humans can't and shit. Sometimes even be revived from death. And I hate it. Because this is a henshin show. The whole point of henshining is to get the powers from the henshin. It's what makes being a ranger special. You know, the suit grants them the special abilities. That's why they are the ones who can fight the bad guys. But giving them powers outside of that just makes you wonder why they transform at all. I mean, do the suits here even do anything? They're cyborgs. Do the suits enhance them more? It's not even for secret identity purposes, as crime know who they are. Most people do. They do investigations unmorphed in public all the time. I'm just not a fan of it. If you give them powers at all, they should be passive or useless in a fight. Otherwise, again, what's the point of morphing? In 8 supercars, super speed, 300 kilometers an hour, I'm American, so I don't understand that. It's a car chase where Jack tries to stop a crime agent in a supercar. In 6 targets, exploding flowers. When Karen's friends are killed because of a crime plot involving exploding flowers, she makes this mission personal. Wasn't it always personal for her? In 7 Streets, The Deadly Fist of Hell. I think I saw a porno like that once. So, hey, Karen, new do. Looks good. Very 80s. And it's a pretty drastic change. So much so you'd think that they'd reshoot the intro, outro, and maybe some other things to account for that. No. For the rest of the show, they keep her long hair in the opening and end credits when they could have easily reshot them. Same goes for when they morph, they just keep her long hair. It's especially noticeable because in this episode it focuses on her, where she trains some pussy kid in the art of karate, so he can enter a kung fu movie-style tournament arranged by crime to avenge his brother. I don't know why, but Karen seems to be getting the best episodes that are tied to her personally and have a proper amount of silly shit. Which is great, but seems like the boys need something to do. In 11 Collections, Invitation to Happiness, Ryu and Karen try to figure out why crime went to assassinate a seemingly random woman. Brought to you by Sony. In 13 Jackpots, Burn, Flames of Friendship. Guro tries to help an old friend when his research of an evaporating chemical, is being used by crime. The only reason this episode is notable is Guro's friend is played by Koki Tanioka, who you should remember because he will also be a very prominent Sentai actor in the near future. In 10 Pyramids, The Maze of the Golden Mask, is another okay episode, only notable again for its guest star who you may not recognize under all that hair, but that's Susumu Kurobe, also known as Shin Hayata, the original Ultraman. Cool. And really, the same goes for the next episode, Blue Key Quiz, the riddle of the secret room murder riddle, where guest starring is Shinji Todo, someone you definitely want to remember as we will see him in the next video, and please no one spoil what that will be in the comments. I want it to be a surprise for those that don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, this episode Bunto buys a mannequin and lingerie. No further context will be provided. And all supercars, violence, great violent dash. Wait, I just noticed the numbers are gone. Why were they there in the first place? Yeah, this episode's a live-action worst Speed Racer episode. In The Crimson Occult, Ghost Story, Vampire. So remember I said the show goes through several changes during the production? Well, I guess by this point when they started filming, the reviews were probably coming in about the first couple episodes and they realized the whole crime drama aspect wasn't working. So by this episode, that dark and more serious tone is gone. The reason you can tell it's this episode is that, well, first, the premise is a bit more stupid, as crime is not doing actual crime anymore. They now have vampires, which Karen is afraid of, apparently. Also, you may have noticed, 15 episodes in, I haven't mentioned Joker since the first episode, because he hasn't done anything, and now his hamster does more, as it now talks because it's also a cyborg, and most of its purpose is to shit on Bunta, or pee on him, as it does several times in the show. Because now that it's more for kids, Bunta is now the comedic relief ranger, acting dumber and somewhat more childish, as he now sometimes plays with a kendama toy. And this is where the show started losing me. While I have been breezing through these episodes, I did enjoy the change of pace and more gritty stories where people were dying a lot. It made the situation more dire, it added some stakes. But now it's way more Sentai, which is a problem because, like I said before, aspects like the monsters are still nothing burgers. So now instead of a show that's more crime drama and a little Sentai, it's more half and half. So it's half-assed. And Black Baseball, the attacking Miracle Ball, actually starts off my favorite way any show does when it starts an episode, with the Rangers in the middle of a fight against a monster. I love when shows start in the middle of another story. It makes the characters feel more alive. They're not just waiting for the show to start. And this episode should be one of my favorites because it's a baseball episode. But when you make your villain an international crime syndicate dedicated to selling weapons, drugs, and committing mass murder on a global scale, they kind of come off as lame when their plan is just fucking with a middle school baseball club. But now this is a kids show, so the Rangers interact with more kids because for some reason a bunch of grown adults in a boardroom think seeing kids in a show is what kids want when they just want to watch superheroes fight monsters. In Black Demon Moon, Ghost Story Hell House, we see more of Bunta acting like a jackass when he tries to protect a girl from spoopy ghosts. In Blue Whirling Tides, the face of the secret spy, this scene was the only thing I noted about it. In Great Crimson Adventure, Demon Extermination of Bottomless Haunts, Jack investigates sightings of an Oni. It's a crime shitter. In Messenger of Darkness, the transparent monster runs the darkness. Jack guards a princess from crime who are trying to take her valuable gemstone to be used for evil. This episode is notable for something that this is the last time a crime boss is used. Yeah, every episode had these humans acting as a crime boss, usually for an area in Japan who sets up the plots and commands the monsters of the episode. I guess you can call them the general/commander types for the villains of this show. That's kind of the role they had, but they're all interchangeable, as Ironclaw would usually kill them or something by the end of the episode for failing. Good riddance, they were useless. Episode 21, the Rose-Colored Baseball Era, Crime Slugger, was close to being my favorite episode, as it's about a crime monster, Devil Batter, seemingly pacifist, as all he wants to do is play baseball. He has no interest in doing crime or fighting. Jack, of course, are skeptical, but turn around when he gives them information on a crime plot, and they learn, hey, maybe not all monsters are bad. That's great. Until they reveal, no, this is a trick, he's super evil, and it goes how you think. It started off as my favorite because this was the shit I was looking for, a monster that actually mattered to the plot. It was serious but not too serious with some jokes, and it's about baseball. And it was almost complex for kids, showing a monster can be more than just evil. But no, then he's just evil and it turns into a regular episode. Hence why it was almost my favorite episode. Still alright. In Big Red Counterattack, attack the Suicide Bomber Army. Crime sends Sudoku soldiers to blow up Jack. If this were one of the serious episodes, that'd be cool. Here it's okay. I guess I should mention now the two women you see on your screen. These are ISIS agents that showed up a few episodes ago, Agents 9 and 10, who kind of serve the same purpose as 007 and Go Ranger, female comrades that help in the field and around the base. They don't do as much as 007, but they're cute, so I'm fine with them. Though Joker does more in this episode than them. But here it is, folks, episode 23, about 2/3 of the way done the show, and you can kind of divide the show by its thirds. The first one being the crime drama character-driven darker story the creators wanted. The second third being more a show akin to Go Rangers when they realized that drama stuff wasn't working. And this last third is the holy shit, this show is bombing, we gotta save it fast to keep our jobs arc. Because this episode restructures the entire show moving forward. It removes characters, adds new ones, there's an entirely new blueprint to how the episodes play out and how the current characters act, and most importantly, it's the first time in Sentai history where we get an additional ranger. It begins with Ironclaw, where we see he's not the true leader of crime, as he talks to a mysterious being he calls Shine, who's the true supreme leader. And Shine says it's time to take over the world, so go kill Jack. So they send Atomic Witch, an invader monster. Yeah, there's a new monster type, who, according to the fan wiki, are alien cyborgs. Yeah, aliens are a part of this now, just casually. The witch almost wins, actually crucifying Jack, and is about to kill them. Until. Jack have no idea who saved them, but give chase to the witch, who deceives them by disguising herself as a human. So Jack go back to the base to confer with Joker, but finds someone else there.
誰だそこはジョーカーの席だぜ何者だ
ジャッカー電撃隊行動隊長バンバ総吉よろしく
Yep, Hiroshi Miyauchi, aka Owl Ranger, is back, now portraying Sokichi Banba, the new leader of Jack, as Joker was written out of the show, only appearing in a recording saying he fucked off for vague reasons, and now Banba is the leader. And Jack easily accepts this change with no issues. Yeah, this is very clearly an attempt by the showrunners to increase ratings by bringing back a fan favorite actor, and I'm mixed about Miyauchi returning for reasons I'll get into later, because it's awesome seeing him back, but I do think it affects the writing of the show negatively. Hell, Bamba barely helps during an episode. He always vanishes or acts like he already knows what's going on until the moment right before the fight where he, you'll see what he does. Because he only shows up to do this big finishing move at the end. Yeah, he doesn't really fight with them or transform with them. He really just shows up to do this finishing move. And he's also way better than the other new character, Tamasaburo Hime, played by Genpei Hayashiya, a comedic relief character who is the official cook for the Jakqers. He's super annoying. He only exists to be loud and make funny faces, which, to be fair, Genpei does a good job at that. I have no problems with the actor. But the character, I thought, was insufferable. If kids found this funny in the 70s, I hope they didn't grow up. Anyway, thanks to Bomba's help, Jack are able to find the witch and confront her. But oh no, the Jack Kovac doesn't work. Luckily, Joker left them some special tools, which they use now, along with that mysterious new ranger that helped them earlier, the first White Ranger, named Big One. They'll combine their parts to form the Big Bomber. It's a cannon. It shoots things and it blows them up. Hey, it's not football, but it's simple and gets the job done. But yeah, this is the rest of the show now, and we know, of course, despite all these big changes, it wouldn't help, and the show would get canceled in about 10 episodes, so I guess we'll see how those 10 episodes go. Demon, Angel, the marvelous flute playing man, is an episode I kinda liked, based on the Pied Piper tale, where a flute playing monster, Hell's Angel, uses his flute to control kids, using them to defend him while he does bad, because Jack can't attack him. It's actually a good plan. And we see how Banba acts in the show, as he'll hear about what the Rangers are dealing with, fuck off for a bit, then show up to save the Rangers by disguising himself, usually with Agents 9 and 10, to trick the monster, exposing a weakness, allowing the fight scene to begin. Which, to be fair, I do think Banba is cool. I mean, he was literally created to be the coolest motherfucker on the planet. And Miyuchi adds a lot. This bastard is loving every second of being this character, and it's such a joy to watch.
ジャッカー電撃隊行動隊長バンバ総吉よろしく
Also, we got his agents he commands to dress up in bunny suits. Bad for HR, good for me. In Victory, Death, Demon Shogun and Mechanization Army is another one I liked, where a monster general in Tagum
ライムのアリガム将軍だ
loses to the Rangers, but he actually survives the encounter and wants to get his revenge, so he goes after them one by one to lure in Goro for a duel and then take them all out. Bringing an idea for an episode, a monster trying to get revenge for getting the shit kicked out of him. I also love that to show he's injured, they give him an eye patch that doesn't even cover his entire big bug eye. That's just great. In Invaders, the mysterious space pirate ship, a mysterious ghost ship has been sighted in Tokyo, I think is where they are. Oh my god! Psych, it's just crime doing crime. And now what should be one of the most infamous episodes of Super Sentai, I'd hope, the Despot's Ambition, Break It, the Death Camp. So, this episode, the monster is Führer Crocodile, who believes he is the literal reincarnation of Adolf Hitler. And he has been kidnapping ISIS personnel and their families and is putting them in concentration camps. He basically wants to start the Fourth Reich. But that's not the most insane part of this. Because remember, Bonba and the agents like to show up at the end dressed up to trick the monster. Well, who else would he dress up as to fool a Nazi crocodile obsessed with Hitler?
Guten Tag, es Ihnen. Danke sehr gut.
Now look, I'm not a follower of Sentai as I said in the last video, but I am shocked just through general osmosis of being on the internet. I have never seen or heard of this. How is this not like in some list like top 10 most insane episodes of TV, period, not even just for Super Sentai? How is this not talked about more? I was so taken aback when this episode happened, especially since this is supposed to be the more kid-friendly version of the show, remember? You got a common writer and a Sentai Ranger dressing up as fucking Hitler. This is awesome. This is my favorite episode of the show. It just comes out of nowhere and doesn't pull its punches. It's something no show would do today. This is something only this show could do at this time now. And if an episode like this doesn't show you why this show and Super Sentai in general is awesome, then get out. God, I would have loved if Power Rangers started earlier and used this footage for an episode. Imagine Nazi crocodile toys being sold at Toys R Us with real Holocaust action. Bravo, Super Sentai. I don't think any episode in any series is going to top this. In my secret, a space monster in my pocket, some jobber antisocial kid is forced to hide a monster that can shrink when he threatens to kill his mom or whatever. Honestly, I didn't care. I binge watched this, so I was still processing the last episode. In Go 7 Changes, Iron Claw vs. Big One is a pretty good episode where Iron Claw actually gets involved for once, where he has a special monster that Rangers can't beat. So Bonba just goes full master of disguise, constantly switching disguises, trying to trap Iron Claw and help the Rangers. It's a fun episode that showcases more of Miyuki's acting chops, and you still see him having fun and giving 110%. But that's also the problem with Bonba as a character. The writers seem to like him a lot, because now the Rangers feel completely sidelined. They're of course still in it, they do the fights and stuff, but now their scenes just feel like filler to get to the Bonba scenes. Remember when an episode used to be about them and something in their past? Well, that's gone now. They are very passive, now only really doing anything when they have to fight. Which makes me more mixed on Bonba because he is awesome and fun to watch, but now the Rangers, the main characters of the show, are basically secondary characters in their own show. In the Code That Calls Death, Deadly Poison Cobra Twist. Honestly, I have nothing to say about this one. It was fine. In Red Impact, The Spy is a Fourth Grader. It's a rehash of that baseball episode where a monster pretends to be good, acting like a kid in elementary school to spy or whatever. Rangers are like, he's evil. The kids are like, no. But yeah, he's evil. Feels bad in a 30-ish episode series. We get an episode that is basically the same as another one. Shows they really were just making these trying to stay on the air. And which is the real one? Danger Big One. A chameleon monster disguises itself as Bonba to infiltrate and sow distrust in the Rangers. Brilliant episode, but I mostly liked all the very obvious edits they did to make it seem like the same actor was on screen multiple times. It's just kind of charming how obvious it is. In the Dengekitai Annihilated, Crime's Cooking Class, it's another Bonba does everything and disguises himself episode. Again, they were really pushing him. And again, I want to hate on it because it's sidelining the Rangers, but he's just so fun to watch.
これでとうとう倒れたかそうか
This is it, Rangers. We've reached the finale of Jack. Yep, it's a two-parter. As we start off with episode 34, Infiltration, Crime Fortress Island. And this finale is actually one of the reasons why I like this show, because unlike Go Rangers, which just ended with some shit about Cassiopeia or whatever, this one actually gives a satisfying ending to the show, the characters, and I think is generally pretty well written. At the Legion of Doom, Ironclaw is starting to have doubts about Shine, as he only follows him blindly and hasn't gotten the results promised. And Shine thinks the same of him, as now sitting in the boss's chair is Great King Icarus. And now Ironclaw is his bitch. They then explain their ultimate plan to strap rockets to Earth to move it closer to planet Shine, where Shine is, I assume. Then Shine will colonize the Earth, turning it into a moon for his planet. Didn't know that was the ultimate plan, but okay. I just have one question. How did the Nazi lizard fit into that? Too bad for them, the Sky Ace is nearby on patrol and almost discovers their base. But luckily, it's Goro and Karen in there, who all of a sudden are a couple. Yeah, this has never been hinted at in the past. The two have been very platonic to each other. The real reason, maybe because apparently Yoshitake Tanba and Michi Love began dating behind the scenes. Ooh. And yeah, because I guess they were getting canceled. They were just like, fuck it, let's incorporate that into the show, I guess. Anyway, they get shot at and retreat back to HQ. Sky is now out of commission for repairs, and the group determines they must have been shot at because there was something there they shouldn't see and figure it must be Crime's base. So Goro and Karen return by boat this time, but get attacked again and dive in the water where Karen injures her leg. Isn't she a cyborg? So now Goro has to figure out what's going on while protecting Karen and finding a way off the island. Well, one of those things is figured out quick as Icarus traps Goro and gives his villain monologue about the stupid rocket plan. Big One also shows up to help out, but he fights Ironclaw, who pulls a Frieza going into his new form. And kicks Big One's ass, but Icarus interferes and Ironclaw sabotages Icarus, letting Big One escape so he can finish him off himself. Back at the base, Banba tells Ryu and Bunta about the situation, as they all feel powerless, unable to go there because the Sky Ace is down. Despite Banba seemingly teleporting there and back, but whatever, kid show. Back at the island, Karen manages to save Goro, showing that apparently she got feels for him back in episode 1 when he saved her from the car crash and wanted to repay him by saving him here. Unfortunately, despite them escaping, Karen is too injured to continue, despite being a cyborg, as Icarus closes in on them, ending part 1. Which was a pretty good episode. I didn't think after Go Rangers it'd be a two-parter and one with actual stakes tension and at least trying to add some character to it with Goro and Karen's thing. It's also impressive considering, at this point they obviously knew they were getting canceled, and maybe this was always the plan to end it like this, but whatever the case, whatever they came up with now, I dig it. But now Rangers come to the final episode of Jakqers, episode 35, Big Victory, Farewell Jack. It's revealed that Goro and Karen are saved by the rest of Jak. I guess we're just forgetting the whole Sky Ace down, so it's hard to get their thing they mentioned. It's a kid's show. The Rangers fend off Icarus, who retreats as they take Karen back home. At Crime HQ, Ironclaw takes this chance to execute Icarus for running away like a bitch. Shine is upset, but then realizes, he's gotta respect it. Claiming he's the king of the solar system and to kill Jak. Back with Jak, things aren't looking good for Karen. She's a cyborg, so she needs a special doctor to help her. That means they need to call in the big guy, Joker. Returning home to help Karen as Ryu and Agents 9 and 10 go to get him with his family. Wait, dude just left his family here? What was he doing? But Ironclaw is streets ahead, kidnapping them, knowing only Joker can save Karen and plans to keep them away to let her die and use them as bait to get the other Jakqers. Then there's this brief thing that Bunta should perform the surgery but gets cold feet. I didn't know he was a doctor. Didn't they say he was an oceanographer? That's why he died in the submarine? Luckily, Banba has an idea. Put one of the hoses from the Jak tank. Oh, yeah, they have a tank too. I don't think I ever mentioned that. It barely ever comes up. Put it in the container the hostages and crime are in, freeze them, grab them, and defrost them like chicken. It was so simple, why didn't I think of it? So Joker returns and is able to successfully save Karen, but Ironclaw thaws from the frozen status condition, so it's time to take down crime. The Jakqers go to Crime Island to get Shine while Banba fights Ironclaw, and the Jakqers easily kill Shine. Turns out he's just a weird lamp. Now it's the final battle, Jakqers versus Ironclaw. They lose. Nah, I'm kidding. They blow him up and win, obviously. And the show just kinda ends there with the narration riding their dicks on what a good job they did.
の戦士ジャッカーよ、君たちの活躍は平和を愛する人々によってこれからも長く語り継がれるであろう。さらばジャッカー電撃隊。
And that's Jak Dengekitai. Sort of, as that was the end of the show, which was in December of 1977. But a few months later, in March of 1978, Jak would get a movie. Jak Dengekitai versus Go Rangers. And this movie, despite being the creator, is the last time Shotaro Ishinomori would be involved with Sentai, and going after the first two shows. I'm going to assume that's because the production did think this was the end of, the Super Sentai franchise as it was. Jak was canceled. They probably assumed it was a fad. They couldn't recapture that magic of Go Rangers. So they all thought Sentai was out the door. Now, clearly that didn't happen, and as to why, that's a story for next time. Anyway, don't pay attention to the title of this movie. It's clickbait. as this isn't really Jack versus Go Rangers, it's a team up between the first two Super Sentai teams. Kind of, sort of. And now these days, a Ranger team teaming up with the past Ranger team is a staple of Super Sentai and Power Rangers. It's something that would not come back for a long time. But again, it's important to note that it was Jakqers that started it. I'm not going to go over the movie in detail as it's pretty basic. Somehow, Iron Claw returned with a big four of jobbers, and Jack have to stop them, but get some unlikely help.
何者だペギー松山
ゴレンジャー
That's right, Peggy is back, as Jack will team up with the Go Rangers. In fact, she's the only one that really comes back. I know this is not the weird way I said that she comes back in the Sentai that I mentioned last time. That's later. She is also the only Go Ranger we see that bothered to come back in person. Well, obviously Hiroshi Miyauchi is here, but he only shows up unmorphed as Banba, not as Akira, because I guess that would be kind of weird. And sadly, Peggy never sees Banba unmorphed, I think, because I guess that'd be weird too. You know, she'd be like, why do you look and sound exactly like my friend? But yeah, the other Rangers do not show up in person. In fact, some didn't show up at all, as when the Go Rangers appear in costume, of course, the audio for Akka and Mito Ranger are cut together archive footage. Yeah, despite both of them still being involved in other Sentai productions, they couldn't get them to record some lines. They did get Baku Hatakeyama to provide his voice at least, as this was a few months before he passed away. So yeah, it's not exactly the big Avenger-style crossover you'd expect, you know, with the characters interacting and seeing two worlds collide. But at least Peggy fights a bit with Goro and Karen. You know, that's something. And again, it's important because it is the first Ranger team-up. This movie seems to be made to mostly celebrate the two shows, as again, they all thought this was it, so I somewhat give it a pass. But this movie is worth watching for another reason besides the Ranger team-up, as it's the first show, at least I think it's the first one, to hint at a greater tokusatsu universe, as at least to my knowledge is the first time other entities outside Sentai are mentioned in a Sentai, as they bring up Kamen Rider V3, Amazon, and Kikaider, another concept that would pay off years later, but cool to see where it started. Despite both their problems, it's great Go Rangers and Jack did get this send-off. It's nice and something you don't see often. And that's Jack Dengekitai. Normally this would be the part where I go over my favorite episodes and discuss the characters, but I kind of already did that by going over every episode. There's not really much to add. I guess to recap, I liked Jack in the beginning when it was more of a crime drama. It appealed to me as an adult. The middle was probably the worst of it, as it was trying to be more silly and kid-friendly and seemed to lack an identity. And the last third with Bomba was great, but he stole the show a little too much. But I still consider it to be better than Go Rangers, as individually there were more episodes I liked, whether it be for the story or how stupid they were. I'm also glad it wasn't 80 episodes long. It didn't overstay its welcome, so I appreciate that, even though it's not what the show wanted. I think if the creators did stick to the more serious tone, the show would go down as that out-of-place but great in retrospect Sentai series that many older audiences could enjoy. But as it is, it's just kind of the weird ancestor to what would be Sentai. So where are they now? Well, Yoshitake Tamba continued to act for a long time after, with his most recent credit being in 2011, and I assume has retired at this point, as not much else was found out about him other than sometimes he has appeared on travel shows with his daughters. That's nice, and apparently he had a strong friendship with Hiroshi Tanaka. Hazen Ito has a similar story, would continue to act until the 2010s, has some kids, most likely retired now. Yusuke Kazuto would retire from the entertainment industry earlier than his co-stars in 1979, but did open a theater company in 2001 with Hazen Ito, and again, he's most likely retired now. Michi Margaret Love, there's not much about her seemingly retiring from acting in the late 70s. After retiring, she seemed to drop out of the public eye, not much is known about her, but according to an interview with Yoshitake Tamba, she had become an English interpreter and teacher. Good for her. But before that happened, well, you'll see. Let's just say she will still have some connection with Tokusatsu. We're not completely done with Michi Love yet. Hiroshi Tanaka would continue to act after Jakqers, getting decent roles here and there. Unfortunately and suddenly, in the new year of 1993, he would pass away at age 59. A specific cause of death was not cited, and the period drama series Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the man who won the country, would be broadcast after his death, being his last credited role. Already talked about Hiroshi Miyauchi. He's great, doing great last time I checked. And yes, before you ask, playing two iconic OG Rangers, he will reprise both of them for big anniversary specials. Again, we're not done with him. He's going to be around for a while. Masashi Ishibashi, who played Iron Claw, is one of those actors like Miyauchi who will be tied to Sentai, but not as a good guy, as he will return multiple times as a reoccurring villain in multiple future Sentai series. You will see that he was a busy man. Unfortunately, he would pass away in 2018 due to heart failure, living until 85. As someone who's already seen some of his other roles, his acting abilities and way of playing villains will be very impressive later. Trust, Ironclaw is not his best, and he will be remembered most likely for being a great villain in multiple Sentai series for many people. And yeah, that's Jack Dengekitai, a decent entry in the Sentai verse. Now you'd think next time we would go straight to the next Sentai series known as Battle Fever J. We're not. In fact, while we'll stay in Tokusatsu, we are going to take a large detour to an entirely different company. As during the 70s, a certain deal was struck between Toei and a small up-and-coming comic company that was trying to expand outside of comics to the land of the rising sun. Join me next time, Rangers, as we take a quick break from Sentai and swing on by the House of Ideas. Because you may not know this, but Super Sentai and even Power Rangers owes their lives to a certain wall crawler you may know. Make sure your web shooters are new, your spider buggy is all fueled up, and you're ready to sell your marriage to Mephisto so you can save your dying aunt who should just fucking die already. Because next time we will be taking a look at Spider-Man. See you then. And remember, once a Ranger, always a Ranger. True believers. They look fucking stupid.